For centuries, millions of Indians have lived right alongside daily reminders of the country's past. But now, that history is being reshaped and rewritten in the present.
हमें आजादी के बाद भी वही इतिहास पढ़ाया जाता रहा जो गुलामी के कालखंड में साजिशन रचा गया था। अब देश उसे सुधार रहा है।
A movement is on the ascent in India.
राम भारत की आस्था है, राम भारत का आधार है, राम भारत का विचार है, राम भारत का विधान है, राम भारत की चेतना है, राम भारत का चिंतन है, राम भारत की प्रतिष्ठा है, राम भारत का प्रताप है, राम प्रवाह है, राम प्रभाव है।
That was Mr. Modi at the inauguration of a temple dedicated to the Hindu god Ram that's been built on the site of a destroyed mosque. The idea that India is and always has been a land of Hindus only, it's an ideology that was for many decades on the fringe of Indian politics. But not anymore. The government has made the most sweeping changes to India's history textbooks in decades, changes that impact a period that begins with the construction of this monument. This is the Qutub Minar, an ancient minaret classified by the United Nations as a World Heritage Site. Its construction in the 13th century marks a pivotal period, the beginning of 700 years of rule by Muslim kings in the Indian subcontinent. The Delhi Sultanate ruled for more than 300 years before making way for the reign of another group of Muslim rulers called the Mughals in 1526. They conquered much of the subcontinent and ruled unchallenged until the British dissolved their empire after 1857. Mr. Modi and his party have often called the Mughals and the Muslim kings who came before them cruel foreign invaders, barbarians who destroyed India's rich Hindu culture. But historians disagree, arguing their role is an intrinsic part of the Indian identity today. This is the Tagore International School in New Delhi, ranked in recent years as among the country's top schools. It is privately run, but the school follows the national syllabus.
This is a group activity. Let's see.
These students use new history textbooks, altered in a move that the government calls rationalization. Until 2 years ago, their seniors were taught a chapter on Mughals, which these students will no longer learn. The government has defended the deletions. The National Council of Educational Research and Training, or NCERT, operates under India's Education Ministry and suggested the changes. Its director says dropping the content won't affect the children's knowledge and removes an unnecessary burden. But the impact of these changes is massive. The books that the NCERT prescribes are used by 24,000 schools. That's tens of millions of students across the country. And not just here, they're also used by 240 Indian schools across 26 countries around the world.
Let's have your opinion on this. What do you think about this rationalization?
I discussed it with my family too,
So
and
your family also agrees to
yeah, they want us to study about the Mughal Empire because they had a huge impact on our society. They ruled for a substantial period of time and they're inseparable.
I believe that if the aim of the rationalization was to add these topics into our syllabus as well to make us more aware of our own native history, then it was a good decision.
Shyans was the last batch of school students to use the old textbooks. In a school system that values high grades over everything else, students agree that any reduction in the course is welcome, but that's where the consensus ends.
There are a lot of things that we don't know about the different regions of our country, particularly the northeast, the north and the south. I think that we should place an emphasis on the history of those regions as well, because at the end of the day they are from our country.
Seems like they have some divisive motives. And it's not exactly just deleting the syllabus so that they can remove the burden from the shoulders of the students.
A lot of the people who will be watching this are not going to be in India. Okay? Right. So their understanding of India is the Taj Mahal, is the Red Fort. Right? But there's also that conundrum about identifying as an Indian.
This is an amalgamation of not only the Mughal Empire, but the lived experiences of our people during the British time, the lived experiences of our people in the medieval India, in the prehistoric context. Doing away with even one aspect of it really harms the inherent identity that is to be Indian.
Saroj Narayan Swamy is the Dean of Academics and taught the deleted chapters for decades. Yachna Vilayat Rani recently moved to teaching senior students and has never taught her students about the Mughals.
I personally feel no matter which topic would have been deleted, controversies would have come up in any case, you know.
What one student said stood out to me as well, where she referred to the Mughals as invaders and colonizers. Do you think that, I mean, what would you as two history teachers have to say about that sort of terminology?
But that's
a true fact. That's a true fact. So it's we can't negate it. They were the ones who had come to, they had invaded India, and we were like under their rule.
Yeah, their background was Turkish, Mongolian.
Turkish,
Their roots are there.
But then they became part of our country. That is the difference in that. That is how there is a difference between the British rule and their rule. The British, they never become part of India.
But that's not what Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his supporters believe. India is a country both complex and diverse, and that is a diversity historians argue that comes from the country's long and colourful past, making it a melting pot of religions, cultures and people. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party disagree.
Har Har Mahadev.
This was India's Prime Minister speaking at the inauguration of a Hindu temple complex in his constituency of Varanasi.
आतताइयों ने इस नगरी पर आक्रमण किए, इसे ध्वस्त करने के प्रयास किए। औरंगजेब के अत्याचार, उसके आतंक का इतिहास साक्षी है, जिसने सभ्यता को तलवार के बल पर बदलने की कोशिश की, जिसने संस्कृति को कट्टरता से कुचलने की कोशिश की, लेकिन इस देश की मिट्टी बाकी दुनिया से कुछ अलग है।
This is also how Vishnu Gupta and his Hindu Sena, or army of Hindus, view the Mughals.
भगवान श्री कृष्ण का, भगवान राम का और महर्षि वाल्मीकि का, रविदास का, कबीर का, इनका देश है, ना कि शाहजहां, अकबर, बाबर जैसे अत्याचारी लोगों का देश है।
His group that supports Mr. Modi's party is a far-right Hindu outfit whose members propagate the idea of a Hindu nation. It is petitioning to remove Mughal references from Delhi, including renaming this road named after Emperor Babur, who founded the Mughal Empire.
धीरे-धीरे वो भी आएगा, लाल किले का भी असली नाम आएगा, कौन बनाने वाला है ये आएगा, और आगरा का ताजमहल का भी आएगा, वो मंदिर है। अब हिस्ट्री हमें ये नहीं दिखानी चाहिए, अभी जो दिख रहा है वो नहीं, जो पीछे का हिस्ट्री किसने बनाया है, किसने बनाया और फिर किसने कन्वर्ट करके कब्जा किया है।
His group has also filed a petition in a New Delhi court demanding the Taj Mahal's origins be investigated. He claims, contrary to conventional history, the Mughal kings didn't build that, but a Hindu king did. This reversioning of historical events is being protested by 250 academics.
Can be overcome not by force, but by a...
Professor Aditya Mukherjee is the president of the Indian History Congress, the largest body of professional historians in the country, set up nearly 9 decades ago. He says while the changes are unscientific, they are not new. Mr. Modi's BJP tried to change history textbooks twice before, in 1977 and then again in the early 2000s. Then historians, including Professor Mukherjee, protested, and the changed books were eventually thrown out. Not this time. They also argue this is not India's history. They argue that Mughals were invaders and colonizers.
You see, now this is like you want to write American history and wipe the entire population of America out. Because after all, they were all invaders, and they were invaders in recent history. What you're creating is, what you're doing is you're demonizing the other community. You're doing two things. A, you're erasing them. This is what has happened historically in societies which have committed genocide of the other community.
Professor Aditya sees the changes to history textbooks as being driven by politics and reflecting the political philosophy of Mr. Modi and his party, and that of its ideological wing, the far-right RSS. Professor Aditya quotes from this textbook used in schools which the RSS started.
Now, this is what they say about Islam. And who are they writing it for? This is a book called Gaurav Gatha for class 4. 9-year-old children are going to learn this. Wherever they went, that is the Muslims, they had a sword in their hand. Their army went like a storm in all directions. Any country that came in their way was destroyed. Houses of prayer, universities were destroyed. Libraries were burnt, religious books were destroyed. Mothers and sisters were humiliated. Mercy and justice were unknown to them.
BJP leaders have often also called India a Hindu nation, but the country is also home to 200 million Muslims. Making it the country with the third largest Muslim population in the world. The change to India's textbooks extends to possibly the most famous Indian in history, the country's founding father, Mahatma Gandhi. In the changed textbooks, mentions of Mr. Gandhi's belief in Hindu-Muslim unity are also gone, as are references to the multiple assassination attempts on Mr. Gandhi by Hindu extremists. On 30th January 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was walking to a prayer meeting just inside this complex. That's when a young Hindu extremist walked up to Gandhi, pulled out a pistol, and fired at him thrice at point-blank range. That man's name was Nathuram Godse. The changed history textbooks don't mention Godse's ideology and his links to the RSS.
This is again precisely the messing with history, trying to delete aspects which are uncomfortable to you.
Vishnu Gupta's group is now leading calls to canonize Nathuram Godse, saying he's being wrongly portrayed in history textbooks.
वो लोग कुछ ना कर सके, नाथुराम गोडसे ने कर दिया। आज 20 करोड़ मुस्लिम की इतना पॉपुलेशन होगा एक गलती कारण। यदि उस समय बंटवारा ठीक से हो गया होता, तो कोई जो हम आज ये फेस कर रहे हैं, ये फेस ना करते।
Increasingly, it's an opinion you'll hear on the streets in India as well.
मुगलों का भी एक मकसद भारत में आए थे, उनका एक ही मकसद था कि यहाँ पे लूट खसोट करना। जो सोने की चिड़िया थी वो क्यों थी? सोने की चिड़िया को लूटने के लिए आए थे। जहाँ भी इन्होंने देखे आक्रांता थे, जो हमारी बहन बेटियों के भी साथ में व्यभिचार करते थे, और हमारी जितने भी राजे रजवाड़े थे उनको ख़त्म करने में इनका एक हाथ था।
और ये अकबर, बाबर, बीरबल, इनके इतिहास पढ़ाया जाता है, ये सरासत गलत है। ये चेंज किया गया, बहुत बढ़िया किया है।
से निकाल ही देंगे तो बच्चों को क्या पता चलेगा कि क्या था और क्या नहीं था? पढ़ाने से पता तो भाई हिस्ट्री में रहना चाहिए ना, उससे ये पता रहता है कि ऐसा हुआ था।
It's not just history textbooks that have become a battleground for Hindu nationalism and divisive politics. As India gets ready for a national election, this battle to reshape the country's past is also being fought in courts and in places of worship.
For millions of Hindus, this city is the beating heart of their culture and religion. Many believe that taking a dip in the holy river Ganga will absolve them of their sins, and praying in these centuries-old temples will cleanse their souls. And that's why this city is seen as the spiritual capital of Hinduism.
History, mythology and politics can often intertwine here in Varanasi, or Banaras as it was once known. Varanasi is home to one of India's most culturally significant temples, Kashi Vishwanath, an important Hindu pilgrimage site. It now finds itself in the middle of a heated debate and in a complex web of legal battles. Behind this 244-year-old temple's newly constructed periphery lies a mosque. It's commonly known as the Gyanvapi Mosque after the surrounding area. No cameras are allowed inside, and local police routinely guard the perimeter. Hindu groups claim this mosque was built on the site of a temple that was razed by Mughal ruler Aurangzeb, whom many see as a religious fanatic. And they believe the older temple stood just meters from where the current Kashi Vishwanath temple is. I put this to a local scholar on cultural landscape and heritage studies.
तो उसको अब जरा स्पेकुलेशन हम लोग कहते हैं इंग्लिश में, माने आप जो भी चीज़ें अवेलेबल हैं उसके आधार पर प्रिडिक्ट करके डिज़ाइन तैयार कीजिए जो उसमें सेट कर जाएगा. तो यह जो बना पोर्शन तो अब बन गया, होने लगा, ठीक है. उसके बाद 1669 में औरंगजेब के आर्डर से गिरवा दिया गया.
Professor Singh says there's disagreement among historians about why the temple was destroyed. Still, many Hindus today view it as a proof of a Muslim ruler of the time oppressing Hindus then. Many, like Manju Vyas, believe it's a part of India's history that's been whitewashed until now.
तो औरंगजेबों ने अपने तलवारों की नोकों से हमारे मंदिरों को तोड़ा गया था, उसमें आकर के बस गए हो तो वो आपका नहीं.
Manju believes it's time to reclaim what's been forcibly taken. It's why she, along with 4 others, filed a petition seeking for Hindus to offer prayers inside the Gyanvapi Mosque, where she claims the remains of the temple are still visible. Their petition is among nearly 24 court cases involving the mosque still being heard. A recent government survey has found Hindu idols and symbols in the basement of the mosque, and Hindus have been allowed to offer prayers in one part of it as a result, even though the lawsuit is currently ongoing. But Manju says it is not enough. She considers it a restriction on her right to worship and claims it hurts the sentiments of devout Hindus. The conviction that reclaiming the mosque site for a temple will correct a historical wrong. It's an idea that's been publicly supported by the governing Bharatiya Janata Party or the BJP and Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
श्री राम का भव्य मंदिर बनने के बाद यहां आने वाले लोगों की संख्या में बहुत बड़ी वृद्धि होगी.
Some historians see it as a continuation of the same campaign that led to a new temple being inaugurated in Ayodhya this year, 3 decades after a Hindu group tore down the 16th century Mughal mosque that stood in its place. They had long claimed that it had been built by Emperor Babur after destroying a temple.
अयोध्या के बाद एक न्यू मूवमेंट आ गया कि अब हमें अपना अस्तित्व, जिसको हम कहते हैं कि कॉन्शसनेस फॉर आइडेंटिटी, माने अपने अस्तित्व के लिए एक मनोभाव जगा हिंदुओं में कि हमें चाहिए, और ये जागरण शुरू हो गया. नहीं तो पहले तो नहीं कोई बात था. मैं खुद मस्जिद में कई बार गया हूँ, कहीं ऐसी प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी.
In these lanes where Varanasi's locals live lie hundreds of temples, earning it the moniker, the city of temples. But Varanasi is also home to more than 1,000 Muslim shrines. Muhammad Akhlaq's family has lived in the city for generations. He's representing the Muslim side in the Gyanvapi court case, arguing the mosque belongs to the generations who've offered prayers there and continue to want to do so today.
जो कुछ लोग उस तरह के होते ही हैं या जो लोग उससे जुड़े हुए हैं तो वो तो भाई अपनी बात कहेंगे ही कहीं ना कहीं, और ऐसा कोई नहीं है कि आपस में बहुत क्लैश हो.
Despite the religious and political connotations, the Muslim side argues the Gyanvapi case is first and foremost a land dispute.
हमारा प्लॉट है जिस पर ये मस्जिद एग्जिस्ट कर रही है और उसके डॉक्यूमेंट्स भी हैं।
Akhlaq argues the land on which the mosque stands was handed over to the Muslims during the British colonial rule, and now to claim it as a temple would be a violation of India's Places of Worship Act. The act was passed in 1991 when the Indian National Congress was in power. It states that with the explicit exception of the site then under contention of the Ram Temple in Ayodhya, the nature of a place of worship as it existed when India achieved independence in 1947 cannot be changed. A violation of it could open a Pandora's box.
कल बौद्धिस्ट कहे या कोई क्रिश्चियनी कह दे या कोई भी कह दे किसी के लिए, इसमें कहने में क्या जाता है? हम एक दावा कर देंगे नहीं साहब ये मंदिर तो मस्जिद इसको तोड़ करके आपने मंदिर बनाया, फिर वो एक विवाद शुरू हो जाएगा। तो ये तो फिर तो दरवाजे गली गली मोहल्ले झगड़ा शुरू हो जाएगा ना। सरकार का काम ये नहीं है। सरकार का काम तो मेंटेन करना है कि पीसफुल ऐसे मुल्क चले, तब तो मुल्क चलेगा।
It's an argument that the Hindu science lawyers argue doesn't hold water.
So far as worship is concerned, so far as everything is concerned, we are not changing the character. Already temple was there, they had just put their dome and they had just changed our character. And so far as Places of Worship Act is concerned, Places of Worship Act nowhere bar to ascertain the evidence, to ascertain the character of any place.
The women petitioners say this is a sign that the history is being corrected. But the jury is still out on whether there is such a thing as a correct version of history. Some historians are warning against oversimplification of history, as it can be hard to say for sure if Hindu symbols can actually be considered proof of a destroyed temple.
You find one lotus and you say, यहाँ पे Hindu temple था होगा. And since the Muslims are like this, they must have done this. But then you are insinuating all these things, you see.
While he was here more than 200 years ago in 1897, the American author Mark Twain observed the piety of the city, calling it a religious hive whose every cell is a temple, a shrine, or a mosque. As a debate about the city and its temples' history rages on, residents here say they wonder where it will take them and Varanasi in the future.